Well, hello everybody. Today I have a Pac-Man board, Miss Pac auxiliary card. We've got a bad ROM. It's been crunched. And let's see. There's no ribbon cable. So what we're going to do is we'll first get rid of the ties. They tied it on, and that's a good thing. It would have been better with zip ties, but hey, we will be happy to work around this. Zip ties are easy to replace. Okay. Okay, those legs all look good. We've got one out of socket. We're going to fix that. Hopefully we can keep those sockets. These yellow sockets are almost impossible to find. So, I mean, we can't find them except on another board, another Midway board. Sometimes I use these right on the board. Other times, you know, they come only as risers on these right here. Okay, so I don't like this edge connector. I'm not going to put mine on there with that messed up. So the first thing we'll do is we'll repair these. Look, this one's bad. There's no finger there. The good news is the ones that are damaged are all the same on both sides. So we will, let's see, pull out some tape. We'll cut new fingers, and we will replace those. And I think, let's see. Okay, I'll need some solder braid to remove the excess solder. We'll use our Pac pajama. The other thing we can use, once we got the edge connector fixed, is we'll use this diagnostic kit. It'll tell us if there's any RAMs bad, if the counters are working right, if the board's working well. This will help fill us in on that. All right. So let's set these aside. And this, maybe these, maybe a clipper. Solder braid works really well if you don't want to fill up your desoldering station with all this. You can pull it right into a solder braid. right. Okay, so someone's repaired this before. You can see this big piece of copper here. We're going to just remove it. There we go. That's a piece of copper tape, which is probably fine. But when the customer replaces this board, look at that. There's another piece. I didn't expect that. All right, we're back. Okay, my soldering station was a little clogged, so I had to, my desoldering station, I had to do some work on it. Let me turn that back off. We've got this stuff has to go back on. I forgot. I used to have a tool to do this. I think I had left it at the other shop. I need to find one again. Alright, there we go. Alright, well that heats up. So that's interesting. There was they repaired this one too, but they didn't wrap it. Just had blobs of solder, all of these. We'll fix them up. It's pretty simple. Alright. Look at that. This one's in perfect shape. No need to put a metal plate on that. That one's in pristine condition. So, as I was started to say before, when they get this back, they need to change their edge connector because this is just a mess. And if this was a mess, you know it's sprung all of the fingers in that, or the pins in that edge connector have been sprung. Yeah, this one's perfect shape. I don't know why they even touched that one. So this one's in pretty good shape, but not perfect. So we'll wrap these first four. I might be able to use this piece here. This is pretty thin copper. Adafruit had a sale. And these were like, it was like $8 for a huge sheet of this stuff. And so I just cut it up and stuck it in this. I used to have one sheet that was, oh, maybe 3 inches by 8 inches. And it came in a bag. And in 25 years, I think I used maybe a quarter of it. So this isn't really a common problem. It is on pack boards, but it's usually not so it's really not that big a deal most of the time. All right, so there we go. So we're going to, let's see, this has to go from here. We're going to wrap it to about here. Okay, and this, after we clean this off, we're gonna run this on it again. Make sure we can get as much of this solder off. Clean it. Okay. Good stuff. The good thing about this, it's got a sticky back on it, so it'll hold it in place while you solder the edges to the old finger. I'm going to cut some more fingers while I the length. That's about, well, that's about double, so we're going to try to cut that right down the middle. Where'd I drop it? Oh, that's funny. Well, I lost it, so we're not going to use that piece. Here's the one piece we're using. Go. We got a bump right there. Nice. Now when you're doing fingers like this, you know, almost all power fingers on most boards are the same signal. So ground, both sides. You know, 7 volts, both sides. 7 volts, both sides. Ground, both sides. So you can wrap them, and it's much stronger, and it's a much cleaner repair. Right, there we go. Yeah, because good luck getting anything to stick just to one side of this board. I mean, you can do it, but it's very difficult. All right. Okay. Okay, so it looks like I'm a little close between the fingers there. So I'm going to take this and shave it right where I can see the fingers are. And that'll give it a nice wide space. You don't want them to short together. You definitely want them to be, you know, as far apart as the original finger. All right. That looks pretty good. So the idea here is that you tack the old section of the board, and you put solder on top of the new finger, and you get that to kind of weld in there. There you go. Sometimes needs a little help. It won't fill in, so a screwdriver will help that. Just kind of hold it down while you tack it together. Alright, next. pretty good. I'll have to test this one right here. Okay. We'll turn the board over and do the same thing. And I'll hold it up to the camera. You guys tell me how I did. There we go. All right, let's see. So, you wanted the pads and the fingers to be soldered together, and I think we did a good job on that side. Let me look at this one. This looks pretty good too. I don't like this so much in the center, but I'm going to add a little more solder there and see if that makes me feel better about it. Much better. So these fingers, you can see here how far they actually go on. They only go on about this far. So this should be just dandy. All right, let's put our edge connector on here. Our JAMA adapter. Let's pull this over here. Alright, first thing we're going to do is we're going to try this so I don't have to burn a ROM yet. There's the edge connector, and there's the CPU socket ribbon cable. Let's check this guy out. He looks good. Nice. And on these, they're square. Well, they're not square, but they're a perfect rectangle. So, oh, look at, we've got a cap that's been broken. We'll replace that. That won't hurt it to test, though. But you want to make sure pin 1 on all the chips lines up with the pin 1s on the board, which are coming this way. So, and that they're straight. Gotta be careful when you push these in, because if you get one little pin halfway out and you push that sucker in, that pin's gone. And you can't use it anymore. So, alright. So we're going to try it with the diagnostics kit, which I really like. And then we'll pop it up on the screen and see what we got. Alright, let's fire up the ABC Diagnostics Kit. Alright, looks like we're missing blue. That's my monitor. There we go. This is a nice little kit. It basically walks through a bunch of the problems that you can have on these boards. You know, bad RAMs. We don't see any bad RAMs. When it boots up, it does a RAM test. And it'll check sound and a whole bunch of other stuff. So let's hit the player 1 button to start. So first is a switch test. We just check our up, down, left, right, and our start buttons. I don't know if I've got the service. Nope. Test mode. Okay. P1, you hold it for a couple seconds, it'll come back out, run it through the interrupt test. Alright, now the watchdog test. Interesting, so, oh. Now the watchdog test. Sound test. And the video tests. Here's the grid, color bars, okay. This tests the proms, I think, color proms. Sprite locations, they're in the boxes, that's great. Sprite color test. You got orange, white pupils, and blue eyes. That's what he's supposed to have. And that tells you that Pac-Man or Miss Pac-Man color proms are installed. Sprite motions, up, down, left, right. Alright, so that all looks good. Video flip test for cocktail mode. Yeah, perfect. Alright. Well, I passed all that. That's my blue again on the monitor. Dang. There it is. Okay, so when this all successfully runs, it tells me the only problems really are ROM access or the ROMs themselves. So we know we had a bad EEPROM here. I burned another one. Programmed another one. And we'll put this here. Alright. We can take off this kit. Actually, let's leave it on for a minute. We had a broken cap here, so I'm going to replace it with another one. Alright. Let's borrow this ribbon cable. And we're going to try it on this pack card. Alright, so we're all hooked up. This is back in spot. edge connectors replaced. We're ready to go. Well, let's see if we have a game. Okay, we still have some problems here. I don't know exactly what they are. Free play. Looks like it's resetting a little bit. What happens if we start again? It looks okay. Yeah, see where it says free play and it's twitching? Right in here, like it's resetting. Put it in test mode and see what we got. Alright. I'm going to reseat all the proms and make sure that everything's in there okay. It's kind of odd. We saw that the watchdog went off for just a brief second. When we were testing with the ABC kit. Let's see if we still have that. Okay, so we just had a bad or a dirty socket. I've reset everything and looks, oh, there it goes again. Huh. Let's do this. I'm going to take the ribbon cable out and put the Z80 directly in the kit in the board. And I'll play Pac-Man with the wrong characters. Well, Miss Pac-Man will look funny. Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man will look funny. Okay. It should go into free play still. And now it looks pretty solid there. So it's got to be something flaky on that, on the Miss Pac card. These things are notorious for bad sockets, dirty proms. They use the cheap single wide inside contact. You know, they contact the inside of the leg. And they're not a great socket. But, you know, they've lasted for 40 years. That's pretty good. Alright. Sometimes you just have a dirty socket, you reinsert the chip, everything's fine. Other times, if it's not making contact and it just continues to be flaky, you have to start searching for which socket to replace or just shotgun them. These all look really good. I'm surprised. Alright, so I've reseated all those chips on the aux card. We'll put the CPU back in the aux card and check it out. I think this gentleman's going to need a new, well, there was no ribbon cable with it, so I think they're going to need that. And then I'll put it all back together and hopefully, let's see if it resets. Yeah, look at that. Watch where it says free play. Now it's doing okay, but if I that looks pretty good. I'd like to figure out which socket, if any. No, it looks good. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is well, I'll show you. On this auxiliary card, these three sockets, just terrible. Hey, we got the inspected by 209 sticker came off. Goes right there. So I'm going to replace these three sockets and then I'll turn it back on, see if there's any more of this this flakiness. The other thing you can do is you can put this card back on there and it'll count how many times it actually resets. It'll just keep it in a boot up state, and every time if it resets, it'll tell you. In fact, I'll show you how that works. Oh. Okay, this is interesting. Hold on. Alright, so if I pick up the card, it does this. So I don't think it's the card so much as the socket for the ribbon cable. Yeah, there you go. I'm barely playing with it, and alright, it keeps resetting. That's interesting. So it plays Pac-Man, right? Everything seems okay. It's I think the 40-pin socket at J1 here. This guy. I'm going to replace him. We'll plug it back in and see if the flakiness goes away. Alright, so we took off the single wipe socket and we're putting on a nice dual wipe. And we got the fume extractor going. These aux cards are kind of nice. They have really super big pads. Real easy to solder. There we go. So we have a nice dual wipe socket. Here's what was on it before. These things are kind of, well, they're not the best sockets in the world. I'm sure they were inexpensive and they probably work great. You know, these games were made to last maybe a couple years, and then they replace them. You know, if they were lucky, a couple years. I think they were surprised. You know, the engineers would be surprised that these things are still running after all this time. All right, that crunches in real well. Put my solder away. Up here, and let's see, seems to be grabbing a lot better. Grabbing, okay, here we go. I didn't realize we were still, I thought I had paused. Well, I hope I didn't miss all that. Alright, let's see. Okay, we got our new socket on, a nice dual wipe socket. And let's see what happens on the bottom of the screen. Watch where it says free play. Alright. It's resetting a little still. Okay, so whenever I move this card around, you can see. So I'm going to replace the same socket on the CPU board. And then we'll see how that goes. These sockets are much more difficult to get out on a Pac-Man board. They're a really good board to practice on because you've got couple traces, you know, right next to all those legs down here, and on the other side, they're little teeny square pads just like they are on the bottom, and these, when they get soldered on the board, this little piece of the socket, if you could see that, tends to get soldered to the pad. So even when you heat them up and you pull them off the board, they you know, heat them up to pull the socket off. Half the time you lose half the legs in there. Thank goodness that they're just pressed into the bottom, so they just come right out, you know. But they pop in and kind of click, and when they lose their elasticity, they'll just come right, they'll fall right out. So they won't fall out from the top, but they have some challenges because they get they get soldered to the pad half the time, and when you go to remove that solder, it doesn't always come off. So you have to pull the socket off, you know, and then you can pull the legs individually. And I did that on this, and I thought I was recording, and I wasn't. Anyway, I'm going to put the rest of this on. You got to be real careful putting these back on. Well, putting them back on, you just have to be careful that you don't get solder on. You don't heat the traces next to the pads. So you just kind of got to walk your way down, because you don't want to get that solder. You don't want to get a solder bridge between what you're soldering to and the pad next to it. That would suck. I mean, it's easy enough to clean up with some solder wick, solder braid, but you know, if you can help it, you don't want to do it. The other thing you try not to do is get these too hot, because you start losing pads. You know, if you have to take a socket off a couple times, if you're not careful and you're using a little too much heat. Or you get too much burnt flux on there. If they start turning brown on you, all that extra flux, it's actually rosin is what you got to worry about. It just burns and very nasty. All right, that looks pretty good. Okay, I can swipe all of this away. Give it to Mr. Camel. It feels so much nicer when it snaps in. Well, let's see how it looks. If we've got rid of that flakiness, that's the last thing we want, is that CPU to reset itself while we're playing. So watch where it says free play on the bottom of the screen. All right. I don't see it blinking. Before it was resetting every so often, and it would just the only part you could see that refreshed was free play, because it would draw the rest of the screen so quickly, I think. And it's oh, what happened there? Let me make sure everything's plugged in tight. I had disconnected the ribbon cable on the daughter card and just kind of set it back in. I didn't push it in all the way. Let's see what happens now. Free play's rock solid. I'm almost afraid to pick up the daughter card, because when I did before, the ribbon cable, the board reset. All right, so I can move this all around now. That's good. So we've fixed that connection. And I think we've fixed the reset. I'm pretty sure it was the CPU socket. Wow, this is cool. Yeah, let's play a little Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man. It's hard to do when it's on its side, but I'll try. Whoops. Come on. Oh, went right through. I have not seen that happen very often. I went through Miss Pac, or the red guy. What happened there? See if we can do that again. Alright, so we'll let this burn in. What we fixed, I'll label the EPROMs that are missing, labels. Looks like we had a missing ribbon cable. We had a bad socket at 6B and one on the daughter card, J1, or the aux card. We had a capacitor that was broken off on the sync bus controller. And we had a bad EPROM at 6H. It just had bad legs. It had been bent. Two legs were broken off. And then we had 3 burnt fingers. So those have been replaced. I removed all the excess stuff from pin 22. I'll call this guy and recommend that he gets a new edge connector. They're not that hard to install, but they do take a little time and effort. You know, you got to clip each wire one at a time and put a new pin on it. Stick it in a new housing so you don't get confused. You know, just do one pin at a time if possible. And there you have it. Thank you all for watching. Bye now.